The family of the accused Long Island serial killer made an emotional return to their home after investigators spent days there, tearing apart the deck, excavating the yard, doing a deep search for any evidence. Rex Heuermann's estranged wife screamed at reporters, "Don't talk to me." She filed for divorce from him just last week. And the suspect's adult stepson was seen crying on the front porch. He apparently told reporters, quote, "Don't even say a word." We're also learning that Heuermann's family has not been to the jail to see him even once. Joining me now is criminal defense attorney Brian Claypool. Brian, thank you for being here.
Hi, Natasha.
Talk to us a little bit about the strain on a family when you have a case with this much public attention.
Well, this case is a little bit different because when I researched it, I thought that the investigators had found potentially some of his ex-wife's DNA on one of the bodies. That's a critical piece of information because that's why there might be this friction now between his ex-wife-to-be family members and Heuermann. They haven't even visited him in jail. To me, prosecutors are talking to the wife and potentially putting together some kind of plea deal to not charge her, for example, as an accessory after the fact, and in return for testimony that might implicate Heuermann. So I think there's a lot of dynamic going on here that's not really related to grief.
How common is it for a close family member's DNA to end up on a victim like this? Is there any other explanation that comes to mind other than that person being an accessory to that crime?
Yeah, it's a shocking piece of evidence, Natasha. I mean, how else could his ex-wife's DNA gotten on one of the bodies unless she was, and I'm not saying she did it, but unless she might have been there with him and helping with this burlap piece of camouflage sack that he put over the bodies. I don't know how else the DNA could have gotten there unless she argues maybe she transferred DNA onto his body that he then transferred onto the victims. But it's not looking good for him and her as well. With this DNA that they obtained from a pizza box in New York City of Heuermann. And rest assured, Natasha, they are testing that DNA on every single body. And they might even exhume these bodies. I hope they do, because there might be some defense wounds. There might, for example, be some flesh under the nails of some of the victims that they might now be able to match to Heuermann's DNA.
Wow. Okay, there is another case that I want to get your take on right now. That 11-year-old girl who was arrested in Florida after reporting that her friend had been kidnapped. Police say that the girl claimed in a text to 911 that her friend was taken by an armed man in a white van, and it turns out now there was no van. There was no kidnapping. That girl told police that it was a prank inspired by a YouTube challenge, and she thought it would be funny. So here's what the sheriff told News Nation's Dan Abrams just recently.
We have to think as we're going in, is this an ambush scenario? Yep. Did it really happen? Is it a hoax? And then, all of these resources are tied up. Some of them you can't trace. Some of them you can. It's really a danger. Somebody could be maimed or killed. This is not a joke.
Yeah, not a joke. I have two questions for you. First, she is charged with making a false police report. That's a felony. And misuse of 911, that's a misdemeanor. She's 11 years old. Do you think that these are the right charges, the right actions here?
Yeah, this is a minor. She's 11 years old. I think it'd be a lot different, Natasha, if this was an adult. I don't think this type of crime should be she should be charged as an adult. Why? Because a lot of kids that age, a lot of teenagers, are exposed daily to social media. She mentions YouTube being an influence. And think about your brain formation. You don't even reach a maturity level till much later, like in your early 20s. So I think that's a mistake. I think at the same time, though, Natasha, we have another case. I'm not sure if you followed that. I think it was either Carrie or Carly
Russell. And in fact, we're waiting to get an update on her any moment, that evolving case. But you're right.
Yeah, that one to me is a little different because she's a mature woman. I believe she was in her late 20s, early 30s. She knew exactly what she was doing. She put law enforcement on a cat and mouse chase for days. Tons of resources were expended. And lo and behold, she wasn't kidnapped. I
Yeah.
mean, she even said the little child was walking on the freeway. I mean, you have to have accountability for an adult that does something like that.
Brian, we're out of time, but I just want to ask very quickly, should this 11-year-old's parents be charged? Should the YouTube creator be charged who originated this hoax, this prank to begin with?
Yeah, I think it's a little hard. It's a little stretched to prove what's called causation by holding a parent responsible for that. The YouTube creator, it depends on the message in the YouTube video. If the message is encouraging somebody to commit a hoax or a crime, then that's a great question. Maybe you hold that person criminally culpable to stop this from happening again.
Okay. Brian Claypool, appreciate your time. Thank you.
You bet, Natasha. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.